very good morning to you. We are live in London and you're with Monocle on Sunday with me, Emma Nelson. Welcome. Coming up today, my guests Yossi, Mekelberg and Latika Bourke will share their views on the week's biggest stories. Good morning to you both. Yossi, what have you spotted?
Good morning, Emma. First, the kind of informal endorsement by former President Obama of Mamdani for the mayoral race in New York. Then from Cain to Abel to Charles and Andrew, the most famous brotherly spats in history. And lastly, what is the curse of being the world's most beautiful village?
Thank you for that. We'll also get the latest from Oslo.
I'm Lars Bevanger, Monocle's Oslo correspondent, and today I'll be talking about why the Chinese could wreak havoc on Norwegian infrastructure. And do you want to know how to live to 100?
Plus, our editorial director, Tyler Brûlé, will be dialing in from Bangkok. It's the 2nd of November 2025. Live from London, this is Monocle on Sunday.
Live from London, this is Monocle on Sunday with Emma Nelson.
And a very good morning to you. Joining me in the studio, Latika Bourke. Latika, remind us what you do again for those of us who've never tuned into Monocle on Sunday.
I'm writer at large at the Nightly Australia.
Thank you very much indeed. And from Chatham House and general man who knows everything about the Middle East, Yossi Mekelberg. Thank you so much for coming in. Yossi's come in with a cold, ladies and gentlemen, so we need to sort of give him some major credit. Latika, on the other hand, has brought in and is treating us to a full post-exercise stretching session. There's a cork ball on the table. What's this?
Emma, I'm amazed you haven't used these before. These absolutely change your life. And when you travel as much as I do, these things, I literally can use them on the bus. I can use them while I'm sitting here. Just a massage ball. I mean, you can get them from anywhere.
Describe it to us. It's about, what, 5, 6... No, but
it's in your hand, like an apple, I would say. Yeah. Apple-sized. And this is the best size. I've tried a lot of them. And I just keep this in my handbag wherever I go.
So we'll all be sorting out our glutes throughout the entire next 58 minutes. While we're doing that, let's cross over to Bangkok where we can join our editorial director, Tyler Brûlé. Good afternoon, Tyler. Do you travel with a cork massage ball?
Oh, listen, don't even... Latika's trying to set me up to be badly behaved on air. We will leave it
need
there.
Any encouragement or incentive?
Listen, her lumbar spine is having a wonderful time at the moment, Tyler. It really is. It's great.
Listen, as long as there's no yoga mats unfurled in the studio, I'll be very happy.
That's next week.
How are you? How's Bangkok? I assume you're well-travelled and comfortable.
Yeah, well, touchdown in Bangkok yesterday. Sort of a semi-somber Bangkok because the Queen Mother, Queen Sirikit, died last week. And so the country's under 1 year of official mourning, but really sort of officially in terms of course, displays and various memorials, it's 90 days. And so as you go through the city right now, billboards are of course allowed to be selling energy drinks and new Chinese cars from brands you've never heard of. But with all of the big screens, probably on every third rotation, the screens go black, and then you have memorial imagery of the Queen, and everyone has been told to tone it down for the next 3 months or so. But nevertheless, Bangkok is still its buzzy self.
Indeed, I mean, 3 months is not a short period of time. 1 week is often something which a culture would find perfectly acceptable. But to actually dive in for such an extended period and spell, what does that do to the place?
Well, I'm sure that, and listen, we're coming into a holiday season, and there's probably some more significant things in terms of what that might do for the metabolism of a city and a country for sure. But I would say also I think it's probably rather good for some parts of business because just the sheer amount of these celebration memorials that are in every shopping mall, every hotel lobby, everywhere you go, with real flowers and very, very sort of elaborate ribbon display, etc. And I've actually been looking around thinking, how did the country mobilize for this? And of course, this is a nation famous for temples. Of course, there is a big business in doing flower arrangements. But I was really, I was quite amazed, and just the scale of them. You're talking, in the hotel lobby where I was just minutes ago. You have a display, Emma, which is probably 5-6 meters across, 4 meters high. And just to be able to turn around the imagery of Queen Sirikit, et cetera. So I would say actually there people in the business of developing displays. People who are in the exhibition business have probably done or will do very well out of this.
It's what, mid to late afternoon where you are, and it sounds like you're out of the hotel and you're out and about. What takes you out? What can you see for us today?
Well, right now I can just see a lot of grey. That has nothing to do, of course, with this period of mourning. It is just heavy. There's a lot of discussion right now that the rainy period is supposed to be over, and we're moving into a dry. For some reason, the rains have held on, and this is a talking point because this is the period when things become a little less humid in Thailand and Bangkok in particular, and yeah, it's supposed to be the evenings where you can really properly sit outside and enjoy without having outdoor air conditioners, etc. That hasn't quite happened yet, so it's a very sort of grey, rather heavy Bangkok, and I'm moving on with the next part of maybe it's the start of the tour, you could say.
Okay, set us up for that. What's happening?
Well, what's happening this week? There's a little bit of Singapore. We're with our friends from Chanel there. We're doing a master class. They're doing a replica in Singapore on Tuesday, Emma, for the cruise collection. And as has been the case with, I don't know how many cities now we've done this in. Is it edition 11, 12, 13? You've been to Dakar, but we've been to Dubai, we've been to Seoul, we've been to Tokyo twice, we've been to Florence, etc., etc. Now we're doing a master class for Chanel, which runs in parallel when they do shows. So that is on Tuesday. Then up to Hong Kong, and a lot of Hong Kong on the schedule these days. And there I'm doing a talk at the Foreign Correspondents Club on Thursday. And we also have a book signing at our shop as well. And then it's on to Tokyo. So
super, super busy. Let's talk a little bit about Chanel. They've obviously got a show coming up next week. And how much of a sense of excitement is there that Mathieu Bellezzi has launched a new generation of design at the house?
Well, I think the feeling, both within the house, but I think also certainly surrounding it, the press, the media, obviously very good reviews off the back of the last show only a couple of weeks ago. But of course, we have to wait till the garments arrive on the rails. And as ever, the customer is going to decide if it's a success or not. So of course, there can be much celebration and delight and excitement around postings from a show and favorable reviews. But it's going to come down to what happens in the boutiques, what happens on the rails, and of course we won't really know the proper response till, of course, some months from now, when, of course, the collection hits rails for spring, summer.
Okay, let's move to Hong Kong. You're talking at the Foreign Correspondents Club there. What are you going to be talking about? And have you been given any sense about what it's going to be like out there, given the fact that from the outside, Hong Kong looks like a place which, when it comes to freedom of speech, is firmly shutting the doors, yet the Foreign Correspondents Club has to sort of keep its flag flying, doesn't it?
It does. Well, I've been in Hong Kong. We've been doing check-ins for this very program, of course, across the past few years. As soon as Hong Kong, of course, reopened up after the pandemic, and yeah, there is a sense of a Hong Kong changed, no doubt. But a lot of the fear and there's a lot of discussion, and I would say there was even a general sort of sense of maybe satisfaction up in Seoul, for example, when the New York Times announced that they would be moving many correspondents, that they'd be moving more operations out of Hong Kong. That simply hasn't happened. You really get a sense that actually there was a sense that foreign correspondents and bureaus would up sticks and go elsewhere, and that has happened, to an extent. Some people have relocated to Taipei, and a lot of it is also does have to do with Hong Kong. Or is it just general consolidation as well of bureaus, cutbacks, etc.? So, am I going to be measured on stage, if that's what you're asking, in a roundabout way? No, I mean the Chinese don't love a Canadian passport, as we know. But listen, I'm going to be talking a bit. And listen, the conversation is not about Beijing. The conversation, from our perspective, is really looking at the Monocle business model, how we're seeing the media landscape as a pan-regional title, and of course, how we're growing. And of course, it's amazing. We're coming up to 20 years of business, Emma. In fact, it is 20 years of business right now, even though we hadn't launched. Of course, there was a 2-year run-up. So it's actually, I believe this month is actually 2 decades since we registered the company, and we're up and rolling. So it'll be, of course, a little bit of a reflection of 2 decades of doing the very brand that we are speaking around mics right now.
And the warmest of congratulations to you for 2 solid, beautiful, lovely decades. I just need to ask you that you are being billed as having a fireside chat. I've always wanted to ask you this. What is your thought on the concept of the fireside chat? In fact, the naming, it's the conversation is fine, but the fact that it's called a fireside chat when you're often not necessarily in Hong Kong, especially wanting to be by the fire.
Well, exactly. It's still rather toasty in Hong Kong. Though I can say the AC works incredibly well at the Hong Kong Foreign Correspondents Club. I don't think I've ever spotted a fireplace, but I wouldn't be surprised, Emma, if there is a fireplace there, because it's a proper institution. It's a red brick affair. So there could be a fireplace somewhere in the building. But the concept of the fireside chat, I like the idea. First, I like a fireplace. I like, sort of pulling up a chair around the hearth. That's, there's something very appealing about that. And that sense that, the fireside chat is maybe where you do have a whiskey in hand and people are gathered around, and it is an open and easy and relaxed conversation. But of course, it's a bit different, isn't it, when the fireside chat has an LED screen behind you and there's an audience of 200.
No, that's
less fireside.
That's not okay. Less fireside, more an AC chat doesn't quite work that way, does it? Finally, you're always brilliant. We're going to be talking about how in a little while how Chinese trendset, the hipsters of China, have re-embraced the croc, which I'm sure you have a thought or two about, and how it is it's the replacement of the lipstick index in an uncertain economy that that young people in China are indulging in crocs. What have you spotted in terms of on your travels, in terms of what are people wearing where you are or where you've been this week?
Well, listen, the whole Crocs topic, I wouldn't even say that they're re-embracing Crocs, because they never left. It is amazing. You could blindfold me and you could have various nations sort of try to creep up behind me, and I could tell you exactly who the Chinese are, because there is that shuffly sound that you get, that sort of slight dragging of feet in a Croc, which is too large. And I'm sure that is going to be much of the defining sound when I get to the Bangkok Suvarnabhumi airport in a moment as well. Listen, the Croc has been reinvented 1,000 times already in China, and it is something which it's just part of daily life. It seems that you can pair a Croc with a nice Denia suit if you want to. It's also great for an evening if you want to go a bit diamante. And of course, it works just as well when you're boarding an aircraft. It has really become the shoe for every occasion, though it should really not be the case. I could spend more time on this than I could on cork balls, let me tell you.
We'll let you go. Tyler Brûlé in Bangkok, thank you so much for joining us on the line. Latika,
I've never
Yossi.
heard Tyler Brûlé had to pause for words. I think that
because of the ball or the croc?
The Crocs. I actually heard a pause before he launched into his monologue about Crocs.
There are
I think you've stumped him for the first time in my Monocle history.
I doubt that very much indeed. But look, let's just launch into the story. It's a story in the Straits Times, isn't it, that struck my eye this morning, that the idea that Chinese hipsters love a croc.
Have you ever worn Crocs?
No, I haven't worn a croc.
No, I haven't either, but they must be comfortable because everybody does wear them.
Okay, there's a confession just about to happen at the other end of the room.
Yossi, do you wear Crocs?
In the garden.
Oh, okay. Are they comfortable?
They are comfortable. They are good for the garden. It's good when you have a dog and you have to go quickly outside and just wear them and lunch when it's wet.
So they're like outdoor slippers.
So they are, I think it's a great definition, outdoor slippers. Now, it's interesting to see how the young generation, because now I'm going to out actually my daughter here with her Crocs, because when she was younger in her teenage years, she looked at it, can't look down at it. No, any person with sense of fashion will wear this. But now with all the charms and all of it, all of a sudden, last time I visited, I saw Crocs there with the charms. So I think the kind of changing attitude among younger people towards that.
It's a single-way journey that you and the Mekelberg family are now embarking upon, now.
So does this mean you're the trendsetter in the Mekelberg family?
No one will ever admit it, even if this is the case.
I must say, I have seen these a lot more in my travels lately, and I do think the charms are an absolute stroke of genius. As soon as you can personalise these things, that's when I think they take off. And I've seen these charms around, and I've thought, wow, that looks really cool.
It looks cool. I do.
Sure I'm not a Crocs.
Might have a thing
I'm not a Crocs person. I don't. I'm not going to die on a hill saying they're the worst things ever. Personally, they're not for me. But when I do see the young kids with them on with their charms, I think, okay, that's like the modern Pandora, isn't it?
We have a moment, and we have a photograph of me on my wedding day.
What, wearing Crocs?
No, I'm not wearing Crocs. I am not. Well, I should have been. I'm not wearing Crocs. I'm in my wedding dress, and everybody else is terribly smartly dressed, including our 3-year-old son. Our 3-year-old son wore a pair of lime green luminous Crocs to our wedding, and it is literally the only thing you see in any of the pictures, because your eyes are drawn to these big limes, these big ugly limey things on his feet, and it doesn't matter how much effort anybody else made to be at that day. The Crocs win.
Does he want to Photoshop it now?
Oh no, they are part of history. I bear those Crocs.
Did you allow this?
Well, dare I say it, I was thinking about other stuff other than my 3-year-old's footwear. And so, yes,
Emma.
Yeah, missed a trick there. So, yeah, it's my fault.
It's all about the photographs, Emma.
Oh, it's literally all about the photographs. It's got nothing to do with the day. We had entrusted him to another person to look after, but rather I don't know, someone had gone for comfort for the child rather than like a smart pair of Loden shoes, which I think we'd bought the right shoes. Don't know what happened to them. But the Crocs are in all the pictures. And you wear them in the garden. What I quite find is, you said it's raining and you take the dog out. The last time I checked, Crocs had holes. And it reminds me of a phrase that my grandmother once told our family, which was, they're great for letting the water out.
It's something like this. If it's not really raining heavily, they're comfortable even to work in the garden, to be honest. I mean, do I think they are nice and fashionable? Obviously not. And by the way, there are a lot of imitations of them that you can find in garden centers, which tells you where I visit. Talking about, tell them how fashionable I am.
Yossi, do you wear socks with your Crocs?
Oh.
Would I admit it in public, even if I've done it?
Just remember where you are, Yossi. This is called a radio station.
And it is Monocle. Monocle.
That's why I'm so cautious about it. Depends of the season.
This kind of thing can get you cancelled on Monocle, see?
We have to bear in mind that what you can't see is that poor Yossi is arms folded, looking
he does look a bit defensive, doesn't he? He looks like he's under attack.
I just think if I need to go and look for a lawyer at this point.
Lovely having on you. Thank you for all your contributions over the years. One thing that this does make the wider point, though, is I think there's a bit of a serious point, though, is that spending in China is absolutely feeble. And this is apparently, the Crocs thing is the new so-called lipstick index, insofar as when an economy is wobbly but people still need treats, normally the idea is that you treat yourself to a lipstick rather than an expensive handbag. That on your travels recently, Latika, and you've been obviously all over the world, when you see sort of uneven economies and stuff like that, China's really got a problem here, hasn't it? And the idea that a pair of Crocs is actually going to cheer you up is sort of a demonstrative of a lot of the world at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think China's got a huge consumption problem, right? Because their economic model is based on capacity and exporting to the rest of the world. The rest of the world is starting to say, we'd like to draw up a few drawbridges here. This overcapacity is swamping our own economies. And so now China is trying to switch to a consumption model itself. Not sure how that is going to go.
And what are your thoughts on this one, Yossi? The idea that when we're looking around at the moment, when there seems to be a contraction here in the United Kingdom, at least, of people are not going out and spending lots of money. And there's a sense, especially in London, that people don't go out for dinner anymore.
Oh, it's so expensive. Sorry, Yossi.
No.
Just cut in.
No, you're absolutely right. We try to look for an alternative, and for instance, the difference between going out and cooking at home, watching a movie at home and going to the cinema and paying ridiculous price for popcorn. And all of this. So I think we changed the habits. Actually, I was interested because there's something about a rival radio station, which I won't mention its name.
You're really doing yourself no favours today, Yossi.
I mean, I'm not allowed to even to listen. I thought I'm not allowed to mention.
Your ears are your own.
But seriously, is that young people don't go to nightclubs anymore. And you have nightclub after nightclub, especially in the north. You will become in Manchester, in Huddersfield, in these places, they close nightclubs because young people say it's too expensive. They sit at home. Unfortunately, they are a lot on their screens. So I think a lot of our habits are changing. It has to do with technology, but I think it has to do a lot with cost.
I think I heard something on that rival radio station as well, and they mentioned actually nightclubs that are opening up nowadays where it's bring your own, and so you have a locker. And you go behind a sort of bar-shaped area where you actually go and pick your own drinks up, because they think that actually the price of drinks is so prohibitive. But they need people in there. You can still buy your own booze, and this would not be a sort of a business model that would be wildly sustainable. But you're just shaking your head, Latika.
I mean, what could possibly go wrong? And there's a reason we regulate and legalise these things. I mean, who knows what people could bring in?
Well, they're actually saying it's slightly safer. Firstly, because they have a limit on the amount you can bring in, although apparently 8 cans is your
quite a lot.
Or one bottle of vodka. It's
No,
your own
thanks.
personal limit. But also, from a safety point of view, no one can really spike your drink because you can put the top back on it. So it's actually quite a good thing.
I mean, you could just sell bottles over the bar with lids and things like this to prevent. Okay, sorry, I'm lost. I'm lost on a BYO nightclub. I think we've really missed the point if you're having to do this.
You can bring your own massage ball. Where is it at the moment? Have you popped it away?
No, it's on my back.
On the back. Okay, just keep. She's going to have a full massage by the end of the programme. Yossi, what have you spotted in the news today?
So, something very different. I think the phone call between former President Barack Obama and Zoran Mandam, yes, I think it was Saturday. And basically, Obama tried not to endorse any mayor candidates. But when he called someone, and it's 5 minutes later in the newspaper, it's as good an endorsing a candidate.
Let's just re-establish. Zoran Mamdani is the New York City mayoral candidate, who has not just been seizing the headlines, but he's actually been seizing a lot of the momentum in New York City.
And he's very likely to win, and the 2 other candidates are not very attractive to the voters of New York. And he, in a very strange way, I think, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, is so different from Trump, but at the same time very similar. It's an anti-establishment vote. And of course, unlike Trump, he's very coherent. The way he speaks is very charming. He represents something politically completely different. He's very young. He's 34 years old, a socialist in the capital of capitalism, which all the different thing. But the thing that people are just fed up with the establishment, whether it's the Republican one or the Democrat one, and we see it here in the UK and many other places. So even if they not necessarily agree with his politics, and I think in probably the most Jewish city in the world, someone that is so critical of Israel going to win election is quite something historical. So I think there is something there which, if he wins the election, and I think probably he would, it says something about American politics, and since we are a year before the midterm election, I think it makes both parties think.
Latika, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I agree with that from Yossi. I think this is opportunism from Obama to be calling him so late and also be leaking this through a phone call, not actually coming out and saying anything. I think it just looks like he sat on the fence until the last minute and seen the surge in popularity for Mamdani. I think Yossi is absolutely right. I think what's taking place in Western politics is the system is broken movement. I think we see that very strongly in the UK, and that's what's fueling the rise of reform. But also, if you look on the other side, the Greens are actually polling very well in the UK too. So this is happening everywhere. And I interviewed a couple of weeks ago, actually, one of Bill Clinton's former advisors, his political strategist, Doug Sosnick, who remains very contemporary because he writes spicy memos every couple of months about where the Democrats should go next. And one of the interesting things he said to me, and I fully agree with this, was that the Democrats have always, for their presidential candidates, elected the Biden, the Obamas, the mainstream, the centrists, the guy that's going to appeal to the middle-of-the-road, middle American. And he said that for the first time, he thinks the Democrats should look to a left-wing populist, whoever that may be, but obviously in the style of politics of Bernie Sanders, AOC, and of course we see now Mamdani absolutely surging in popularity and interest. It's a zest that he brings. And I think if we divorce, obviously you can't divorce how much the Palestine issue has propelled him. But if we extrapolate this in 5 years' time, and let's just say Israel is not the frontline, front page story that it is and has been during this period of politics, I think this is actually what is taking shape. It's insurgents in their own parties taking over these movements, saying enough of that old guard, and Andrew Cuomo is such an embodiment of this establishment, and saying we've got some really radical new ideas for you. I think that is also where the public's at.
This is a very difficult question that is applying, as you said, to politics all over the place. We have in the United Kingdom the former leader Jeremy Corbyn coming up with a party that still has no name.
Your party, yeah.
And it is a splinter group from the former Labour loyalists who see or who feel great disappointment in the direction that the current Labour government is taking. But the idea is just that, or the problem is just that when does something stop being a splinter group from within a dysfunctional and fractured political party and then actually becomes a movement or actually has its own voice? Because the Democrats are divided anyway. They're looking at Kamala Harris, who's trying to sort of mount a comeback and not quite hitting the mark anymore. But to go to Mamdani, to have such a sort of a specific kind of candidate isn't being embraced by the Democrats at the moment.
If you look at young people today, and it's not only in New York, it's everywhere, but New York, I think, symbolizes this. The rent is impossible. So someone tells them, we just capped the rent. Anyone that's been to flats in New York, they're tiny and you pay ridiculous amount of money. Many American students leave university with huge debt. It's not uncommon if you study medicine to have more than $250,000 of debt. So you need to pay your debt, you need to rent, you need to live somehow. You finish your studies, you want to start a family, and more young people can't afford it anymore. So they look for a solution. And then it's very easy for populists to get hold on politics. So can he actually deliver it? I think one of the problems from that, and not talking about youth in politics, it's great to have young people. He's inexperienced. He's more of an activist than someone has experience to really anyone been to New York. What a difficult city to run. But I think in the wider picture, it shows there is malaise in society that the whole establishment doesn't provide answer.
And I think the real success story would be the person that can run looking like an insurgent activist, but actually govern. That's really the secret sauce you need. And Keir Starmer is the exact opposite of that, right? He has none of this zest. But actually, the Labor government has still got time. And I think if they just broke something, if they did something really big and daring and said, this system doesn't work, maybe it's planning, well, maybe it's housing, maybe it's small boats. Here's something I'm going to do that's so radical you never thought I would do this. I don't know that Labor has it in them. But if they did, I think something like that could still work for a mainstream movement and a mainstream leader.
If he succeeds.
Yes.
Then it will be
It has
really
to be about delivering on the things that are causing this malaise. Housing, migration, I think, are the two big things.
What happens if he fails? then we are in real trouble.
Well, they're
Because
failing now, Yossi. They're failing now.
Correct, but then there is no alternative. Say, oh, you went for something so different, and if it fails miserably, no. If he succeeds, I think it can be a real game changer, and I hope so. This is the case.
Actually, I think the public has a higher level of tolerance for failure than we think, and I think we actually need to fail a bit more publicly and talk about that.
The honesty of mistakes is something that politicians find incredibly hard, because they cannot. In communications, politicians are so risk averse. They cannot say, "I made a mess here and I'm going to fix it." Whereas actually, I'm not entirely sure how we wouldn't actually sort of embrace that a little bit more warmly when you make a mess.
What you need to say is, we're going to try. We're going to try something. And I think at that point, everyone pricks up their ears and says, I'm interested in having a look at what you're thinking about trying.
But just going back to the Mamdani thing, and you were talking about, the rent's really high in New York, and the fact that you leave university with this kind of stuff, with large mountains of debt. Mamdani probably is very good at speaking to a specific part of society. The phenomenal power of Donald Trump is that he can talk to the billionaires and he can talk to the blue-collar workers as well, and make somehow an emotional connection with them. That is the problem, isn't it? That if you have someone like Mamdani, he may be ruling out great swathes of a traditional Democrat voter. Latika, sorry.
Yeah. He needs to win the election. Then he runs the city. And I want to, if he succeeds, he might be one day president. This is a real test for if there can be a new politics. The problem is not that politics became very narrow. Ideologically, the discourse in society is very narrow. And actually, we are the victims of the success of the system, that no one wants to risk what they have. So while the system itself and the condition that we so adore, the kind of standard of living that we enjoyed for so long, erodes gradually, we don't want to risk what we have. And he actually puts something different. Okay, we need to take more risk to make bigger gains. But this is not where we are now.
And I wouldn't mistake Trump's dominance for invincibility. I think if you look at the polling in America, inflation is really starting to now bite. I was there in DC the week before last, and one of the Democratic congresswomen I spoke to told me about her polling she's just commissioned. Latino voters are now really starting to feel the pain and starting to turn on Trump. Whether that now translates to anything in terms of a movement back to the Democrats is still an open question. But I don't think that we should confuse Trump's extraordinary communication skills and his ability to dominate the media with the fact that he and his movement are invincible. I don't think they are, and I think after Trump, and we'll see this in the next 2 years because the clock is ticking now, who's going to take over from him and how that MAGA populist movement moves forward. I think that does leave a lot of open space for a left-wing populist or somebody with energy and charisma who could outdo, say, a J.D. Vance or a Marco Rubio, which they're not blessed with Trump's charisma in any way, could easily come through. I'm very that result was closer than people think.
I think beyond the communication of Trump, I think sometimes we underestimate that people vote for Trump despite disliking him because they dislike Democrats even more. And you look at many of the red states that, for whatever reasons I do visit, you see they don't like because it doesn't go with their values, but they so dislike the Democrats and the vote conversation that they can't bring themselves to vote Democrats. And the challenge is actually in their court.
9:34 here in London. You're listening to Monocle on Sunday with me, Emma Nelson. Joining me around the table, we have Latika Bourke and Yossi Mekelberg. And we head now for the latest on the Norwegian side of things. Lars Bevanger is Monocle's Oslo correspondent. Good morning, Lars.
Good morning now.
How's life where you are?
Yeah, life is good. Life is good. We're waking up to news here that the Chinese might have more control over our daily lives than we'd previously thought.
And this is all to do with the bus.
This is to do with the bus and more. So the buses in Oslo and elsewhere in Norway as well, many of them are electric and many of them are Chinese because they are good, and they are cheaper than many alternatives. Now, it's emerged that these buses can be remotely accessed by the producers, i.e. the Chinese, and they can be basically switched off. Now, the producers said that we need access to do software update, which is, if you have an electric car, you'll be familiar with this kind of thing. They can upgrade or update the software over the air. But the Oslo municipality have said that, well, this is a bit concerning, because these buses, in an emergency, say a war or a natural emergency, they are meant to be helping to evacuate the population. So, say the Chinese wanted to prevent that, they could basically stop the buses, and this is obviously something that people are getting a bit concerned about.
And is it just Oslo, or is this countrywide?
It's not countrywide, but there are quite a few major cities that do have buses like these. And again, the municipal economy being as it is, they will go for the cheapest alternative if it's good product, and these buses seem to be.
And indeed, this is not just restricted to buses, is it? Because there are the drones that inspect sort of critical infrastructure for gas and oil in the North Sea. They're Chinese too, aren't they? How did we get here?
Well, it's very interesting. Again, it goes with that the Chinese are very good at this kind of technology. We also, in addition to the drones used to monitor gas and oil infrastructure, there's the drones or the drone monitoring systems at airports in Norway. They're also made by the Chinese. And again, it's good technology. It's cheaper than many of the competition. The main worry is, of course, that the China's intelligence laws requires both citizens and companies to assist state security agencies if they're asked. So it makes it hard to separate private firms from potential intelligence actors. And we might remember, people in the UK might remember, there was a big debate around the 5G network when that was being rolled out for mobile telephones in the UK, that, should we go with Huawei, which is a Chinese company, or should we go with someone from, say, America?
And the choice was to avoid the Chinese option. What can be done about this? I mean, is there a sort of a reaction which may prompt the Norwegian authorities to try to roll back on this a little bit once they realise just how much is now in the hands of the Chinese?
Well, it is obviously possible to roll it back, i.e. when time comes to update buses or drones or monitoring systems, you can choose different providers. The technology that's monitoring potential drones near airports has been that actually went down and failed, so that authorities are looking at replacing that already. So, but nothing's going to happen overnight. Obviously, this is you can't just change all the buses in Oslo just like that. So they're going to have to just look at the alternatives, what's out there, how dangerous is this, can they get enough insurances from the Chinese to believe that they have no nefarious ideas about how they're going to access these buses. So there's a lot of things to be taken into account before they make a decision, I think.
In the meantime, everybody's buying electric cars.
Absolutely. So Norway is still the sort of the EV capital of the world. Nearly 100% of all new cars sold in Norway now are electric. I think the latest figure was 98.3. Now, the main incentive for buying electric cars in Norway has been that they have been VAT exempt. So it instantly knocks off 25% of the price. Now that nearly everyone is buying electric cars, the government has said, well, we've reached our goal. We're going to roll back on the rebate. And from January next year, 2026, cars that cost $5,000 or $50,000 or more, they had been VAT exempt. Now they're going to lower that figure to $30,000, making a lot of smaller EVs suddenly much more expensive overnight. And then by by 2027, they're going to take away the VAT exemption on all EV cars, making them much more expensive overnight. So people are now rushing to buy a car. People who are planning to buy a new car anyway soon, they're rushing to get one now before this price hike in January. And car sellers have said that they're going like hotcakes for an hour. One retailer in Oslo said so. They're struggling to keep up with demand, basically.
Excellent, thank you for that update. Right, we're going to be talking about the slightly troubled or deeply troubled British royal family in a little while. Norway is still having its own problems.
Yes, that's correct. So the Crown Princess in Norway, she has a son from a previous relationship, and he has been arrested and is awaiting trial on a range of charges. I think it's up to 32 crimes he's been charged with, including 4 rapes. Now, he is not a royal. He just happens to be the son of the Crown Princess, but of course has grown up in the public spotlight. Everybody knows who he is. There's been a lot of talk about what he might or might not have done. Of course, the court case is pending, but Norwegian prejudice laws, being as they are fairly lax, has not prevented a book being published just recently, which is called White Stripes, Black Sheep. Now, read into that title what you want, but Marius Høiby, as he's called, and his lawyers have tried to stop this. They're taking the publishers to court on Tuesday, a couple of days from now, to try to get it pulled from their shops because it's already out. Now, in it, there's quite a few statements that they claim are false, and also they say it will prejudice the court case. Now, while all this has gone on, we've heard just yesterday that another book is coming out fairly soon, later in November, and we don't know exactly what that's going to be about, but it's by a tabloid journalist who says they want to look at how democracy works in the interaction between a royal family, the police, the media, and politicians. So there might be a more helicopter view of this whole saga.
The Norwegians seem to be extremely good at making trouble inside their royal family. I mean, I know in the past that we've spoken about Princess Märtha Louise and her amazing shamanic husband.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, she married an American self-proclaimed shaman, and that was last summer. And he's been fairly critical of her parents, the king and queen, now lately in a Netflix documentary. That story has died down a little bit. She has since spoken, and they have both rode back on quite a few of the things they said in that documentary, and the king, her father, has even joked about it at a state dinner recently when he suggested maybe he should make a documentary, the king minute by minute, alluding to the fact that he thinks maybe his own life is a little bit boring and maybe nobody would want to watch a documentary on him.
Well, we were talking about life and you know, the excitement of life and whatever. A survey has come out in Sweden, hasn't it, that's given us advice as to how to live to 100. And effectively, you just have to be Norwegian.
Absolutely. Basically, the thing to do is stay healthy and be healthy as young as possible. So by the time you're 60, if you're a bit overweight and have high blood sugar levels, you basically, it's too late. And another thing is, you could call it luck, but it's basically you have a much higher chance to live to 100 than I do. And the difference between us is obviously you're a woman and I'm a man. So out of the people in Norway who have reached 100 or more, 80% are women. So you're in luck there. But basically, this study was of about 45,000 people they tracked over 40 years. And they discovered that those who reached 100 had tended to avoid or delay major illnesses like heart disease far longer than other people. So basically, it comes down to good old boring health advice. Don't smoke, drink less and eat healthy. be physically active and keep serious illness at bay as early as you can. Start young and live to a ripe old age.
This is Fitness Corner here. We've already had Latika coming here. She's got a yoga block in her bag as well. She's not brought that one out yet. But the idea that we have people, Lars, in this room who do sport and who do stuff. And at what point does it kick in that you think, oh my goodness, I have to do something, otherwise it's going to go very wrong very quickly? Latika?
I feel like I'm being fitness shamed here.
Not at all. Totally celebrated. Absolutely lauded. Because we've actually been to fitness classes together. So we've done this
and
before.
It was a very enjoyable post-Monocle morning.
It was, and hurt for days. But this idea that, I mean, Yossi as well, you're neat and trim, and sort of bounces in. Style guru, and obviously across it. What is it? At what point was there a moment when you woke up and just went, I have to do something about this, otherwise this isn't going to go well?
I did a lot of sport in my younger years, and then, as you know, life, family, all of that, you do much less on this. And then at a certain point, definitely the last 10 years, going, not that I'm a great fan of the gym, but doing a lot of gym, spin classes, as you know,
yes.
and cycling outdoors. So, yeah, it feels much better.
Latika, did you sort of think, oh my goodness, I have to do this? Or has this always been part of the Latika thing?
No, I was never a big fitness junkie. In fact, at school, I really hated exercise. You'd much find me under a tree reading a book. I could read 5 books in a day, but I was not really one for running around. I think, actually, I only started getting into fitness when I moved to the UK, of all places. Most people move to the UK and have a Heathrow injection.
It's the weather that
I went the other
encouraged
way.
you.
Yeah, I went the other way. But I must say, I think you're either an exercise alone person or you're an exercise in groups person. I think really that's where you find your formula for exercise and happiness. And I've definitely an exercise with other people person.
Lars, what do the Norwegians do? Are they solitary runners, or are they all climbing into the spin class together?
Oh, there's a mix, but there's a lot of solitary runners and skiers. Of course, in Norway, cross-country skiing is extremely popular, and everybody does it. You run in the summer and you ski in winter. There's quite a lot. If you go out into the forest outside of Oslo, you'll see a lot of solitary skiers starting around this time of year when the snow starts to come. But there's a lot of people. Gyms are also very popular in Norway. People do go there. Personally, I really do detest gyms and training inside with other people sweating near me. So I'm more of a running cross-country skiing guy.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I thought you were saying you're going to don't do any exercise. And it's like, you're Norwegian. You have to. You've just told us about the survey. Lars Bevanger, our Oslo correspondent, thank you so much for joining us on the line. You're listening to Monocle on Sunday with me, Emma Nelson, Latika Bourke, Yossi Mekelberg. Latika, what have you spotted in the press today?
Okay, I'm obsessed with this story. I mean, there but for the grace of God go I, in the Times of London, where the journalist emailed, going back to our story about Mamdani, emailed Bill de Blasio, who they thought was Bill de Blasio, the former mayor, and asked for his views on Mamdani. Very scathing, and published them subsequently to only find out it was another Bill de Blasio who spent quite a few years trolling people who email him thinking that it is the former mayor. Now, this has been, of course, a huge embarrassment to the Times, otherwise a great paper. And one of the associate editors is quoted as sending an email and a note saying, look, this is really obviously poor form and we shouldn't do this. But I don't know about you, Emma. I'm cautious about emailing people for interviews as a journalist. It's not really something I've ever thought to do precisely because of this. You just don't know who's on the other end. And whatever happened to just calling someone or hearing them speak? And I think this is kind of what's going to shake down in the AI world of journalism is the people who actually cite, speak, talk, sit down. I am stunned these days when I receive PR pitches from people who do not include a mobile number in their email. And I think we've lost this power of just picking up a phone and talking to someone. And I think this is where the rubber hits the road. It does actually now lead to proper consequences when you do not know how to use old-fashioned journalistic tools like hearing someone's voice, knowing that that person sounds like that, knowing that that person talks like that, getting a person's mobile number in the first place. You have to do that with shoe leather journalism.
Yossi, you're nodding when you heard that.
Because I work on both sides of journalism, writing my own pieces, and sometimes I'll pick up the phone and ask you, what do you think about it? But getting a lot of phone calls. People want to talk. And the one that I don't answer is, you mentioned emailing. I get an email with 4 or 5 questions, which basically, would you mind writing for me your my article, because I'm too lazy to do that. So I get really along that. And of course, think about an article. If you answer like 150, 200 words of each of the questions, thank you very much.
I don't think any journalist would appreciate 200 words coming through. I suspect like just a few pithy sentences would be great.
You get a lot of questions. So I usually don't do that. But as you say, if someone picks up the phone and it happens, you can imagine, definitely in the last 2 years, you have a few of them almost every day. And not only it's good for them, it's good for me too. Because from the question, I learn a lot what kind of the things of interest out there. It makes me think about it. And you're right, this kind of interaction, even going on Zoom and having this kind of conversation, the lazy type of journalism is not welcome.
I'm not sure it's lazy. I just don't think we have the time. I think the idea now is that the majority, Latika, you can help us in this one, but the way that stories are told now are done so quickly and in such a tiny little sort of dose, insofar as, apart from the long read that we sit down and we wallow and leisurely read, how many times are we reading past the first 3 sentences of something on an article? And when you said, Yossi, I'm having to give lengthy answers as a broadcaster, I'm like, please don't do that. I literally don't have time, because I have to get on with this, and I've got so many different outlets that I have to serve as a journalist nowadays. So just when I read the article about this Times journalist who had emailed Bill de Blasio, I thought 2 things. Firstly, why didn't you think that there might have been a press media spokesperson for the real Mr. de Blasio, who you would who you'd instinctively go through nowadays? Because normally, if you can get straight through to Bill de Blasio, you would assume him to say, you have to go through my press team first. But secondly, that sort of real worry that how do you get Bill de Blasio's email as well? Because if you don't think that Bill de Blasio is going to have some sort of, it's going to be quite hard to email Mr. de Blasio, then you just think, actually, is this the right person? I know that at Monocle we do put our emails out there so that you can actually email us directly. But I think we are a dying breed of that sort of open and accessible sort of world. But and we're journalists. Mr. Blasio isn't. Mr. Blasio is a public figure who you would imagine would quite like to keep his email private.
I think there is a difference between emailing someone who you've established contact with, and that's their identity on email or SMS or whatever, however you're contacting them digitally. But to blind email somebody and hope that that's the right person in a world where you're constantly being emailed about unlocking your, Nigerian fortune that someone's bequeathed you. I mean, it's just outrageous. I mean, email to me is one of the most scammable, untrustworthy places that exists on the internet and has been since the dawn of email.
I like the fact that the wrong Mr. de Blasio played along.
Oh,
as well.
yes.
Jumped in with both feet.
I mean, that is very mischievous from him, but this is the world we're also in.
Well, it's my own story of the same TV station we mentioned earlier, that the taxi driver was interviewed. Instead, I think
we're allowed to say the BBC.
Are we allowed to say the BBC?
I think we are.
No, but a taxi driver that brought the expert was interviewed instead of the expert. This happened a few years ago.
But that's hilarious. Because that's just an accident, isn't it?
It's actually, but interesting. But when you say about emails, you can separate between your professional emails and your private emails. So you put on the website, as we have at Jetamas, for instance, I have a professional. So if I want to ignore an email, I can, which is separate from my private one.
Goodness me, if you've ever emailed Yossi and haven't had a reply, that's
I'm the worst on email. I have 300,000 unread emails across about 5 different accounts.
Okay.
Has it happened to any of you that I didn't answer your question, your emails?
I always ring you, Yossi.
You do.
But I don't ring you every day.
No.
Maybe you should. Yossi, what else have you spotted? Prince Andrew, you wanted to talk about, Yossi. We've got a few minutes to talk about possibly the longest running story that could have been sorted out in a few sharp months.
It's actually a story in The Guardian, which not necessarily a Prince Andrew per se, but it's about kind of brotherly rivalry in history, going all the way to the book of Genesis and Cain and Abel. And again, of course, in the British history, George VI and Edward VIII. And there is, and of course, the one which probably won't match to the listener, Rudolf Dassler and Adolf Dassler, that is basically more known as Adidas and Puma. And this kind of rivalries, which put, the connect between the family rivalry and, again, you assume that any one of us who has siblings, you grow up together, they're supposed to be, at least in my case, my best friends. But at the same time, when you're in a royal family, something else interfere there, and one of your brothers probably really misbehave, and you have to make sure that the monarchy survives, and it gets a bit sticky there.
A limb was chopped off this week, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. They didn't include Scar and Mufasa in this list. I think that's one of the most epic brotherly fallouts of all time. That deeply distressed me as a child watching Mufasa die. So for me, this is like the iconic brotherly fallout.
Well, we'll have to sort of step away from the West End of London and start to sort of focus more like a little bit further west near Windsor. The fact is that this has been so badly handled, hasn't it?
Yes, it has, but I do think it reflects very well on Charles. I think Charles's reign is obviously going to be a much shorter one than the Queen's, but this is something he will be remembered for. And it's very clear now that he's been working on this since becoming king, and he just needed these last, allegations or airings to push this over the line. I mean, that statement that was delivered from the palace, can you imagine the Queen ever putting something like that out? It was so terse, absolutely making clear that Andrew was not willingly doing this. He was being evicted from the Royal Lodge. I mean, astonishing tone in that statement. You don't see royal communications like that. And I do think Charles is seen, I think, as a fairly soft, mild-mannered king. This week, I think we saw a different side of Charles.
And this now opens up the fact that the royal family would not have to deal with any allegations or anything in America that could involve legal proceedings or anything like that. It just means that the royal family does not need to step in anymore.
I think in the United States, they will still see him as part of the royal family, and the fact that it took so long, and for an autobiography of someone that, as a result of what happened, committed suicide, I think really to clean this stain will take a very, very long time, if at all.
I think it's open slather for Prince Andrew. I think this story is not even Prince Andrew, for Andrew. I think this story is far from over. If you were an enterprising parliamentarian, there are inquiries you could open into in the Commons into his past work as an envoy. If you're in the United States and there's a huge political campaign around the Epstein files, you could call him to give evidence. I mean, he has no protection from these proceedings anymore. And maybe, just maybe, we will see some justice here.
For all the victims.
Yeah.
And that's all the time we have for today's programme. We'll have to leave it there. The warmest of thanks to all my guests, Latika, Bourke, Yossi Mekelberg, Tyler Brûlé and Lars Bevanger, and to our producers, Mariella Bevan and Desi Bandley. The studio engineer today was Mariella Bevan. I'm Emma Nelson. Monocle on Sunday is back next week. But until then, goodbye. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend.